जय कुञ्ज विहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुञ्ज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन जमुनातीरा वनचारी जमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुञ्ज विहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुञ्ज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी श्री राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। So welcome again, everyone. Please accept my respectful obeisances. For the ones who've just joined, we will begin with reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. If you want the screen, Prabhuji, can you please share the screen if you like? As I have the book and I can read from there. The word samadhi technically refers to a state of trance in which one is completely absorbed in Krishna and forgets the material world and all material desires. Generally, samadhi is thought of in terms of secluded meditation. A highly advanced yogi goes to a solitary, peaceful place and meditates or chants constantly. But Prabhupada demonstrated by his life's example that the world situation is too urgent for the devotee to retire and meditate. Rather, a devotee should labor hard to increase the Krishna consciousness movement. This would benefit both the devotee and the masses. Prabhupada's disciples, therefore, as servants of the spiritual master, should work now, and later, perhaps in old age and spiritual maturity, they could retire to a holy place to constantly chant and hear about Krishna. Prabhupada emphasized work. Yet, what was that work? At least for Srila Prabhupada, propagating Krishna consciousness was samadhi itself. Samadhi didn't have to be limited to sitting in a solitary place. The full meaning of samadhi implied complete absorption in the loving service of Krishna, with the senses, mind, and intelligence fixed in trance. Thus, in samadhi, one could be active, traveling, preaching, and distributing back to Godhead magazines, chanting in the streets. If a devotee always thought of Krishna and worked on behalf of Krishna, then he was the topmost yogi. This had also been Lord Krishna's advice to Arjun: remember me and at the same time fight. Srila Prabhupada was the emblem of active samadhi, always hearing about, glorifying, and remembering Krishna, and always fighting as a soldier on behalf of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada's preaching in Nairobi had been especially active. He had established Krishna consciousness in a new city, setting the example for Brahmananda Swami to emulate. Showing the standard for spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the continent, and Shyam Sundar was keeping his GBC, God Brothers, informed of Prabhupada's amazing activities. The peace had been lightning fast, and his divine grace is opening up yet another vast theatre of operations. The people are thronging with curiosity and serious questions. Prabhupada, after finishing one late night preaching marathon, asked for food and remarked, "You see, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Keep me talking. That is my life. Don't let me stop talking." But Nairobi was only one city, in one country, on one continent, and Prabhupada's desire was to see Krishna consciousness in every city, town, and village or in the world. How could he do it in one lifetime, traveling to every city in the world, printing and distributing books in every language, constructing fabulous temples? He couldn't. But he wanted to do as much as possible in whatever time Krishna allotted to him to ensure that the Krishna consciousness movement would survive. He criticized the politicians' typical attitude that unless they themselves remained active, everything they had worked for would crumble. Such politicians were always reluctant to retire, preferring to remain in office until their last breath. Prabhupada, however, had no personal ambition, and he knew that the results were awarded by Krishna. As a true sannyasi, he had renounced the world and worldly ambition, but he had not become lazy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It's so wonderful reading this that my heart does not want to stop, so I have to remind myself. I will share the screen now for our Bhagavatam session. So our verse today is from 5th canto, 17th chapter, verse number 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनम् हृदयन्तस्तो हि अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोकैर्भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीर्. So let's begin our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, verse 17, chapter 17, verse number 2. I don't know the meter of this, so I'll just read it. Yatra vava veera, yatra vava veera vrata, auttanapadihi parama bhagavato, अस्मत्कुल देवता चरणार विंदोदकम इतियाम अनुसवनम उत्कृष्यमान भगवत भक्ति योगेन दृढ़ं क्लिद्यमानांतर हृदय औत्कंठ्य विवसामिलिता लोचन युगल कुट्मला विगलितामला बाष्प कलया भी व्यज्यामान रोम पुलक कुलको अधुनापि परमादरेण शीर्ष बिभर्ति. If anyone of you know the verse meter and would want to sing or just recite it by reading it, please feel welcomed.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam, please.
I will read, but I don't know the meter myself also.
That's fine, Mataji, no problem.
Okay. Yatra na vava veera vrat अतु अनापादिः परं भगवतो अस्मत्कुल देवताचरणारविन्दोदकम् इत्येयम् अनुशावानम् उत्कृष्यामान भगवतभक्तियोगेन दृढम् किलद्यामाना मान अन्तर हृदया औकण्ठया विवश अमीलित लोचन युगल कुदमल विगलित अमल पाप्स्प बाष्प कलयाभिवया जयामान रोम पुलक कुलको आधुनापि परमाधरेण शीर्षा विप्रहर्ति. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Mataji. Anyone else? Okay, then we can move on to synonyms and translation. Yatra ha vava in Dhruvaloka, Veera Vrataha, firmly determined. Uttanapadihi, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanapad. Parama Bhagavataha, the most exalted devotee. Asmat, our Kula Devata, of the family deity. Charana Aravinda, of the lotus feet. Udakam, in the water. Iti, thus, Yam, which. Anusavanam, constantly. Utkrishyamana, being increased. Bhagavat Bhakti Yogena, by devotional service unto the Lord. Dridam, greatly. Klidyamana Antaha Hridaya, being softened within the core of his heart. Outkantya, by great anxiety. Vivasha, spontaneously. Amilita, slightly open. Lochana, of eyes. Yugala, pear. Kudmala, from the flower-like. Vigalita, emanating. Amala, uncontaminated. Baspakalaya, with tears. Abhivyajya, Abhivyajamana, being manifested. Roma Pulaka Kulakaha, with whose symptoms of ecstasy on the body. Adhuna api, even now, Param Adarena, with great reverence. Shirasa, by the head. Bibharati, he bears. Would anyone want to read the translation in purport?
Hare Krishna, may I?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dhruva Maharaj, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanpad, is known as the most exalted devotee of the Supreme Lord because of his firm determination in executing devotional service. Knowing that the sacred Ganges water washes the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Dhruva Maharaj, situated on his own planet, to this very day accepts that water on his head with great devotion. Because he constantly thinks of Krishna very devoutly within the core of his heart, he is overcome with ecstatic anxiety. Tears flow from his half open eyes and eruptions appear on his entire body. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Read the paper or somebody will read?
You can read, Mataji, there's no volunteer.
Okay. Paper by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna. When a person is firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is described as Veeravrata, fully determined. Such a devotee increases his ecstasy in devotional service more and more. Thus, as soon as he remembers Lord Vishnu, his eyes fill with tears. This is a symptom of a Mahabhagavat. Dhruva Maharaj maintained himself in that devotion ecstasy. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave us a practical example of transcendental ecstasy when he lived at Jagannath Puri. His pastimes, they are fully narrated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वीरकृष्णदास गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, welcome everybody. We'll just read one more time the translation and then I'll stop sharing this screen. Dhruv Maharaj, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanapad, is known as the most exalted devotee of the Supreme Lord because of his firm determination in executing devotional service. Knowing that the sacred Ganges water washes the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Dhruv Maharaj, situated on his own planet to this very day, accepts that water on his head with great devotion because he constantly thinks of Krishna very devoutly within the core of his heart. He is overcome with ecstatic anxiety. Tears flow from his half open eyes, and eruptions appear on his entire body. So, we are on this chapter, the descent of the river Ganges. In this chapter 17, we'll be learning about the descent, glories, and path and branches of the Ganges. Also, in the following verses, the whole chapter defines the 9 varshas of Jambudvip and the prayers to Lord Sankarshan by Shiva in Leelavarta Varsha. I was listening to this section. I know Krishna really humbles me. Um, Knowing my limitations around geography, um, I saw what is this, what is the history of this. So this chapter comes as a part of Shukadev Goswami's description of uh, cosmology, or we can say uh, universal geography. Sometimes we just don't feel comfortable around those subjects. Last week, Tulsi Sevya Mataji was mentioning that yes, Krishna humbles us by making us feel so insignificant because we don't have the knowledge of certain things. So yes, this is even before these. Srimad Bhagavatam is so amazing that even before we actually started understanding, it was already there at the time of creation. So, in the 5th canto, the first 15 chapters, Shukadev Goswami narrates about the dynasty of Priyavarta Maharaj, which we have been reading. Shukadev, so here we know that Priyavarta Maharaj is the descendant of one of the sons of Swambhuva Manu, where Swambhuva Manu had 5 children, 3 daughters and 2 sons. And Canto 4 talks about the 3 daughters, Devahuti, Akuti and Prasuti, the first 4 chapters or first 8 chapters. And then from Canto 4, 8th chapter onwards, the dynasty of Uttanapad is being discussed by Shukadev Goswami. And then the first 15 chapters of this Canto 5 is about Priyavarta's dynasty. So Priyavarta Maharaj is actually responsible also. Yesterday, while I was listening to one of the wonderful lectures of His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, he mentioned that Priyavarta Maharaj is also responsible in the current structure of this universe, the Bhumandala. because Priyavarta Maharaj was once he was once not very happy with the movements of the sun. So he went on his chariot, and wherever the chariot went, the chariot wheels made some impressions, and they were formed on the Bhumandala. And these impressions became the seven islands. So the geography is described in this chapter, in the previous chapter as well. Bhumandal, um, the seven portions that separates the seven islands. So the seven islands that separates, or the seven islands and seven portions that separate the seven islands, in the middle of Bhumandala is Jambudweep, Jambudweep, and in the middle of Jambudweep there is Sumeru Mountain. And the celestial Ganges descends from the covering of the universe all the way on top of the Sumeru mountain. Also divides, the celestial Ganges divides herself in four parts, and they flow in different directions and mixes in the saltwater ocean, which we learned in the previous chapter. So in this verse, in this particular verse, celestial Ganges is descending towards Dhruvaloka as well, and Dhruva Maharaj is paying obeisances to the Ganges. So in this particular verse, Dhruv Maharaj, the most exalted bhakta in bhakti, to this very day accepts the water in great devotion. Dhruv Maharaj is honoring the water, and so in the previous verse we learnt about Lord Vamanadev. When Lord Vamanadev extended his left foot and pierced the universal covering, the pure water of the causal ocean entered this universe as the river Ganges, and the glory of touching the water of the Ganges purifies every living being of all the sins and material contamination, yet it always remains pure. We also learnt about the other names of 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 Ganga, or Mother Ganga. Vishnupadi, Bhagavatpadi, Jahnavi, Bhagirathi, and after 1,000 yugas, the Ganges descended to Dhruvaloka, which from then on became known as Vishnupada. So these two verses, even verse 3, also describes of the Saptarishis respect the Ganges. And in this verse, it will be Dhruva's ecstasy. So in Dhruvaloka, the determined, famous, and exalted devotee, Dhruva Maharaj, accepts the Ganga water on his head with great devotion, knowing it to be the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet, therefore Vishnupada. As he does so, his heart is softened with ever great increasing bhakti, and his hair stands on end, and tears flow from his eyes. So it's a very it's deeply sweet and devotional verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very poetic as well, with such beautiful words that have come. So the sacred Ganges is descending from the Lord's lotus feet. Um, there are certain points that has come up in this verse where Dhruva Maharaj's ecstatic devotional absorption, even now in Dhruvaloka, is there. And the sages describe how the Ganges, touching the feet of Lord Vishnu, uh, flows through the universe and purifies all living beings. So in this verse specifically, Shukadev Maharaj is glorifying Dhruv Maharaj, whose planet lies directly in the path of the Ganga, and how Dhruv Maharaj receives Ganga water on his head with supreme reverence, even though he's such an exalted devotee. He's an exalted, liberated Vaikuntha resident. So this verse also describes about the firmness in devotion. Dhruva's firmness, some characteristics of Dhruva being an exalted devotee, his firmness, his humility, and most importantly, the ecstatic symptoms that arise when he remembers Krishna. So I got reminded of one thing. I listened to one of the lectures of His Holiness Swam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj, where he was describing about a pastime of His Holiness Radhanath Swami with his disciple. And the disciple asked a question, how can you remember Krishna? And Radhanath Maharaj said, do you see the spectacles on the table? Um, so he said, yes. And looking at those spectacles, what do you feel? What are you reminded of? Uh, Things that belong to someone, we get reminded when we see them. So whenever we s- he learned that whenever he saw the spectacles of his Maharaj, he got reminded of Maharaj, his his taste, his ideas, his vani, his instructions, his this, that, whatever comes in the mind of the person when they see the object that belongs to someone. So, understanding from here, how can these ecstatic symptoms arise by seeing the Ganges? uh, Because it is coming from everything that that we see belongs to Krishna. And if we are not reminded of Krishna, Krishna is very, very merciful. But the mercy remains invisible into our eyes because we don't see things from the perspective that everything belongs to Krishna, nothing belongs to me. So as long as we have the sense of thinking that this belongs to me or this is mine, we will definitely be forgetful of Krishna. So, in that space of understanding that Dhruva receives Ganga water on his head with supreme reverence, it is because that is coming from the Lord's lotus feet. And that brings ecstasy. That brings the firmness and devotion. His humility is seen. And how these ecstatic symptoms then arrive because he's actually thinking of Krishna all the time. So, if we understand, if we take some words from the verse, Veera Vrata, heroically determined. So, Dhruva's title, Veera Vrata, here actually explains that he's Veera, heroic. Vrata means wow, not like wow, but the wow of determination. So why is it heroic? Because Dhruva was very young. He was, as a child, he was there alone in the forest. He was fasting, meditating, facing severe austerities without any prior training. And even though his motive was totally different, even though the desire was totally different, but it shifted. And all this being alone in the forest, fasting, meditating, facing severe austerities without any prior training, without any instructor, except for Narada's questions and answers, he was there. He showed unshakable commitment to finding God. That unshakable is heroic, is full of determination. So, bhakti begins with determination. This verse teaches us that bhakti begins with determination. Without determination, Dhruv did not start as a perfected devotee and then he waited to become perfect, and then it was just the determination that held him into finding God and going into the chapters where Dhruv Maharaj, he was actually controlling the whole world because of his determination. And the demigods had to go to the Lord to see what could be done. And Parama Bhagavatah. So he's a Param Bhagavatah. Well, how is he a Param Bhagavatah? He's a topmost devotee. So he's not a topmost devotee because he went alone and he fasted and he meditated and he faced or he did some severe austerity. Because of his austerities, he did not become the topmost devotee. But because of his purity of his heart, his humility, and most importantly, constant remembrance of the Lord with devotion and determination, gave him those ecstatic symptoms, the spontaneous ecstatic symptoms. So Bhagavatam teaches us that being a great devotee doesn't mean we we get spiritual powers. It means we should have thick skin and soft heart. Rather, we have thin skin and hard heart. Therefore, our heart never melts. So that's another aspect from the verse that we learned that Dhruva showed unshakable commitment to finding Lord, and bhakti begins with determination. And we don't need to be perfect devotees to remember Krishna. Second aspect, which was being taught here through this Parama Bhagavata, is being a great devotee doesn't mean that we may have spiritual powers. It means we must have a pure, melted heart. Then the third aspect, which we can read from the verse, is Dhruva's reverence for the Ganges. Adunapi Paramadharena Shirsha Bibharti. Dhruva still carries the water of Ganges or Ganga water on his head. This is astonishing, still carries. Sometimes we think that, okay, now this is done, so tick box. Why, it puts us into that question, why a resident of Dhruv Loka, whose planet is Vaikuntha like, take Ganges water on his head? Because anything connected for Dhruva, anything connected to Krishna is worshipable. And Ganga washed the feet of Lord Vishnu. So that's the reason. And even another important point here, that why is Dhruva still carrying the Ganga water on his head? The more perfect a devotee becomes, the humbler he gets. So Dhruv Maharaj here is being a perfected devotee, he remains humble. So Dhruva is teaching that the higher one goes in devotion, one values more, even a minutest drop of mercy from the Lord. So Ganges is also called the Tulasis of water because it purifies everything. So because she purifies everything, her water is purificatory. And she connects us to God physically. So I was just thinking about it, how uh, unfortunate it is that we ritualistically understand going into the Ganges and washing ourselves, or um, taking the water of the Ganges. Uh, it is ecstatic actually to be seeing that, to be understanding that it is coming from Lord's lotus feet, it's coming from Lord's direct contact. And because we have our focus is somewhere else, uh, but in Krishna, we are always digressed and distracted in this material world. So, because we are digressed and misdirected in the material world, we can't really ever experience ecstasy, even for the minutest, span of time. So, Dhruva's ecstasy here is also mentioned in this text, where we get the direct glimpse of bhava, and Srila Prabhupada has mentioned about this bhava as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the practical example of transcendental ecstasy where he lived at Jagannath Puri. So Dhruva's ecstasy is a direct glimpse to bhava and prema. So the verse describes a series of symptoms. We can't talk about prema here, but surely there is a lot of bhava, heart melting, which says Klidaya Manantar Hridaya Outkanthya. So Antaha Hridaya, the heart becomes soft like butter. Therefore, it is melting. And Aukanthya Vivasha, there's this anxiety for divine longing. So anxiety of this is very interesting because the other day, our Gurudev, His Holiness Bir Krishna Das Goswami Maharaj was saying this. um, that what do you think? There's no anxiety in the spiritual world? Often we think anxiety is a very negative word, and anxiety is an emotion where things go out of control. And our propensity is to control. We want to remain in control. So it's then intense. Anything that comes in intensity, our body finds it really difficult. Our nervous system finds it really difficult to manage it. So anxiety here is not a negative word. Like you would say, oh, there's anxiety in the spiritual world as well. I better not go back to Godhead if there's anxiety. What's the point? So this anxiety and the anxiety of this world, first thing, we don't know how to sit in anxiety, first of all. So this anxiety is the anxiety for divine longing. It's not an anxiety that gives sadness, but it's intense spiritual eagerness. It's a divine longing, the separation, the viraha from the Lord. So the moment this anxiety comes, there's this half open eyes, Dhruva's half open eyes remain, is overwhelmed by emotions, and the tears are flowing as a result because this is pure, uncontaminated tears of divine love. And we've often come across so many texts saying that Vipralamba bhav is the topmost bhav. And therefore, this is happening step by step. Heart melting, anxiety for or of divine longing, then half opened eyes, tears flowing, and after that, goosebumps. That's the symptom. Goosebumps is ecstasy, the Roma Pulaka, the physical eruption of joy, where physically it can be felt. So these are Sattvika Bhavas as described by Rupa Goswami. Um, However, we are being made cautious not to imitate these bhavas because they come naturally. It comes naturally when our heart melts. The point here is our heart melts due to intense remembrance of the Lord. And this is the symptom of Mahabhagavata. Very rarely this happens, but only to a Mahabhagavata, remembering Krishna, losing oneself to Krishna, in love with Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada actually gives us several deep lessons from this very small verse, though. Few lines, we finish it. But Prabhupada says that when one is firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is described as Veeravrata. With an example of Dhruva Maharaj, we are made to learn this, that one has to be firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to become Veeravrata, fully determined. And this firmness matures into deep emotion. Deep emotion brings spontaneous tears, and spontaneous tears can happen when our hearts are softened. So we consider vulnerability as a space where we should not cry. We are not okay with the vulnerable spaces that's provided or that is there. So vulnerability is one space which brings humility. And because it is bringing humility of knowing of our conditions, our heart is softened in vulnerable situations. Another aspect which Srila Prabhupada mentioned here is Dhruva Maharaj maintained himself in that devotional ecstasy. So how much devotion? Devotion starts with discipline, like sadhana bhakti. Then we go to the prema bhakti. So the spontaneous love for the Lord. So discipline or devotion starts as a discipline and then ends at ecstasy. It's like how milk in its original form becomes yogurt, sugarcane becomes molasses, iron becomes gold when touched by touchstone, etc. So discipline becomes devotion when touched by grace. Um, in this point where Dhruva Maharaj maintains devotion even after perfection, we were made to understand that Dhruva is already liberated. He's already residing in the eternal spiritual position. He does not have to do anything. He's beyond the modes. Yet, he takes the water from the Ganga, or Ganga water. He takes Ganga water, remembers Krishna constantly, and cries in love. This teaches us that liberation is not the end goal or end of devotion. It is the beginning, like initiation. Initiation is not the end goal to be a member of ISKCON community. It is the beginning to be able to serve Srila Prabhupada. So, and to begin into deeper devotion. So it is the beginning of deeper devotion. Very beautifully, Srila Prabhupada has, in few words, Srila Prabhupada has given us a beautiful example of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave us a practical example of transcendental ecstasy. So, Srila Prabhupada immediately connects Dhruva Maharaj and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who also displayed tears, trembling, goosebumps, fainting. Mahaprabhu he gave us this example. And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of these examples, what Dhruv experienced internally. So if we understand this uh, from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are a lot of instances, lot of references that can come up. So we also know from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, where Rupa Goswami's Satvika Bhavas are mentioned, and the 8 signs of ecstasy, tears, voice faltering, trembling, goosebumps, all these um, are examples that a Mahabhagavata feels. A Mahaprabhu before Jagannath in Madhya Leela 2.50 to 50 onwards, we see how Mahaprabhu before Jagannath cries in such ecstasy or ecstatic longing that the tears flow like rain and he becomes overwhelmed. Again, the word overwhelmed, because we've already experienced Krishna consciousness, crying is exactly like, it's very complex to actually compare who to who, because Dhruva Maharaj to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the tears actually wet the ground around him. It was this strong. And Viraha Bhava is there, the devotional separation is there. So Dhruv Maharaj is also experiencing these anxieties or experiencing the longing and the anxiety of separation. Um, the eruptions of ecstasy is also mentioned here in Antilila, where Mahaprabhu's body also erupts in goosebumps, so same as Dhruva. Uh, Beautiful examples. What Dhruva is feeling, and we're getting those in words when we actually read them in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can see what was happening there. So here is how this verse actually speaks to our lives today, that bhakti is not a mission goal where we reach and we stop. So it's a lifelong journey. Uh, Dhruva teaches us that we may begin in pain, but we can end in pure devotion. Um, Important is, are we willing to be in that space of pain? Oftentimes, what happens that the moment pain comes in our life, we disconnect with the Lord without thinking that something. I'm learning something from here, but we kind of disconnect. We take it as punishment by or from God, and then this karma concept comes in. Karma, as long as in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna mentions that as long as you are engaged in these activities, you will be bound by karma. Moment you surrender unto me, I will take care of your karma. So the point here is, we are not willing to give our pains also to Krishna, let alone good things. So we may begin in pain, but we can end in pure devotion. So, whatever our beginning, pain, frustration, confusion, Krishna can transform it to come nearer to Him. Humility is the most important jewelry or ornament of devotion. Dhruva's asking, or Dhruva's actually honoring or taking the water from the Ganges on his head teaches that we may whatever the services, whatever we are given, by the process of chanting, attending temple programs, learning, reading, knowing philosophy, whatever we may do, but if we are not humble, if we are not practicing humility, all these are like just an activity. We may sit with a question that, is my heart really melting when I'm chanting? Is my heart really melting? Or am I gaining pride because of my services? So the, these questions, this verse leaves us with a lot of internal questioning within ourselves, with this example of Dhruva Maharaj, and understanding that from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. Also, this verse teaches us how to honor sacred things. Often we see that it is very much mentioned every time around Bhagavad Gita, that people keep the books in very nice sacred places, but they never read it. So we need to honor these things. Honoring means not just keeping them in one box or a shelf and then letting it to um, be read by the dust. So, or we must honor the water, Ganges, Tulasi, Bhagavatam, holy name, unless and until it is mechanical, it's very difficult to be actually honoring in the true sense and being humble about it. So Dhruva valued everything because all these are connected to the Lord. uh, Dhruva valued, and we can cultivate similar reverence. Everything, actually, anything that belongs to this material world is also connected to the Lord, be it living or non living. So we can also cultivate similar reverence, similar respect. And devotional devotional emotion, or the emotions that come, the bhav that comes, is a gift. It's not something which I can imitate it. So it's not an imitation. Because it is a gift and not an imitation, many people misunderstand this aspect, and there will be fake tears, trembling, loud displays. Bhagavatam is very clear about this, that real emotion flows naturally, and we have this energy understanding that it is what is real and what is not real. And our job only is to practice sincerely with our heart. Sincerity is very abstract, but it can only be experienced. So our job is only to practice sincerely, and we're not to sit and understand whether my actions are sincere or not. The moment, that's Krishna's job to decide. So Krishna gives the emotion when he desires. Oh, I'm practicing my devotional service past 60 years with so much of devotion and sincerity, but my heart is not melting. What is my problem? Why am I not growing? It's Krishna's willingness. He gives the emotion when he desires. Constant remembrance is the goal. Even Srila Prabhupada in all his lectures have been saying, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Anushavanam. Always remember Shravanam, always constantly. Dhruva is always remembering Krishna, and we can also remember Krishna while walking, cooking, eating, sleeping, whatever, working, resting. This is the essence of bhakti. So I think I have almost covered everything in the purport. I can just quickly summarize the three takeaways from this verse and this purport. This number one is determination, Veera Vrata. Start the journey, be steady and stay steady. Humility, Sirasha Vibharati. Respect every drop of mercy, and ecstasy, Roma Pulaka Baspa. Bashpa. So when the heart is purified, love overflows. Dhruva began his bhakti journey as a hurt little boy and ended with glowing examples of a topmost bhakta, forever immersed in love of God. So Bhagavatam also shows us where we start, it does not matter. Uh, where sincerity takes us, that is bhakti. How much our sincerity is taking us where is what how we work within ourselves. So mm, we can leave with this question that where is my sincerity taking me? Is it taking me near Krishna, or is it taking me away from Krishna? And any time I start is a good start. So we are never late in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada also says we are never late in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada says. So thank you. Thank you very much. These are the things that I have to say. If there's any corrections or additions or anything anyone wants to add, please feel free. Hare Krishna. Okay, then it looks like we don't have any question, anything to discuss here. Shall we conclude?
Yes, Mataji, we can conclude the class. Thank you so
Yes,
much for a
thank
wonderful
you.
class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च
Krishna.
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।
Nurgrace
ग्रेस
Radha
राधा
Padma
पद्मा माता जी
Devi
की
Jai.
जय।
Srila
श्रीला
Prabhupada
प्रभुपाद
ki
की
jai.
जय।
Gaur Premanandi.
हरि हरि बोल।
All
All
have a
glories to
lovely
Assembled
rest of
हरे
the
कृष्ण।